está bien en Pava detrás de él. También se encuentra con él. Caster ha descendido. Austin Dillon sale de la 2. Va hacia la recta posterior. Lo ganó ese líder. Empieza a subir. Keselowski ha bloqueado el 22. Ahí está Michael McDowell. Miren los caballos. Se tocaron. Keselowski. Fortísimo impacto. Varios que se han impactado. Ya por la curva 3. Keselowski se tocó con Logano. Pasó a McDowell. Ya habían tomado la blanca. Así que esto se va a terminar. Aparece la bandera amarilla. McDowell se la lleva. Extraoficialmente ya tendremos el resultado. Oficial. Acá están los Penske. Esperemos, acá está Logano.
With Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertainment. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? Here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard the
Rush. Se lo lleva McDowell. Ahí viene Harvick. Woo, daddy. Good stuff there, Bobby. That's how it sounded in Fox Deportes. Good find, man. Good find.
I'm glad I found that for you, buddy.
Wonder if they're hiring. I could do that. I could totally do that. Se lo lleva McDowell. That means McDowell takes it. La bandera amarilla. Yellow flag. You know, I didn't know that they actually telecasted that. I'm even more impressed with NASCAR now. Even one more reason to like NASCAR.
Well, they got the diversity there, huh? I wonder if that was a NASCAR thing or a Fox Deportes thing.
I don't know. I didn't really look at what you sent right there, but I played that, and like I said, I thought it was funny when I first heard it. When you first sent it to me, I hit it, and I swear it said Pinche Harvick.
I went back and listened after you sent me that text.
And I think most people would know that Pinche is not a good thing, but a lot of people think of him like that. But hey, welcome everybody, and we're going to give you a fair warning of this little program that we're doing today. So we are running without a lot of Wi-Fi. So we're doing things quite a bit differently today. Bobby's down south, I'm up north, but we wanted to. We know some people may be stuck without power. And if that is indeed the case, that sucks. But what a day, man. What a day and what a night when it comes to weather. I have never, ever seen anything like this.
Yeah, no, I haven't either in terms of everybody being down with the power and the rolling power outages. And luckily for me, I don't want to jinx it, but I've actually had power all day. Had different parts where the power is knocked out for a few minutes and come back on. But that was the way it's been all day. But I know people still without power. So for those that are without power, hopefully you're hunkering down. We got a fireplace, got somewhere safe to go, and got somewhere place to kind of warm up. So it's the little things that you realize you take for granted. Electricity, running water, and heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And if you have to get out, please, be safe. I ain't gonna lie, I went out. I just wanted to see what the roads were truly like. So I did a little neighborhood pass and kind of drove around. It took me about 25 minutes to get my car just in condition to get out of the driveway. And this stuff is so deep. I'm not sure about you, Bobby, down south, but I went out in the backyard because the challenge today for us was with dogs. To get them out and try to go take care of their business. But I can tell you in my backyard, I was anywhere from I'd go to 5 inches to 8 inches. Constantly throughout the yard. And what's even more amazing about it is none of it's melted. This stuff is going to be here for a little bit.
Yeah, no, they're calling for 70s on next weekend, but we'll see how it goes. I probably got roughly about the same. The only thing that I saw that was a surprise in my yard was I found a dead lizard.
Nice.
Poor little thing had tried to crawl across I guess he was hanging out underneath the barbecue grill or somewhere, but he ended up it wasn't one of those lizard warnings like you get down in Florida where the iguanas get so cold they start falling out of the trees.
Yeah.
But it's one of those. The little guy looked like he was just frozen to death. So I picked him up and put him on the barbecue grill on the inside to see if he'd get a chance to warm up. I'm not trying to cook him. I just put it. That was the only place I had to pick him and put him up there where he had a little bit of cover in there. So we'll see. I have a feeling though the little guy's gone to a little better place after being stuck in the cold, because they don't like this cold weather a lot, and I think him being stuck out in the single digits last night didn't do him any good.
Yeah, you said put him in the barbecue grill. I'm like, do I need to like mute you here? This is probably something we shouldn't talk about. But yeah, it's tough, man. Take care of those pipes and animals and everything. And hey, take a look right there as we roll into this. No guests today because the secondary phone line that runs into the studio is not stable enough to where we can probably get somebody on here. We talked to Corey Roper. We will talk with him at some point, but didn't want to get him in the middle of conversation, him or anyone else, and have that conversation drop. But take a look right there. We see Deb Metcalf checks in, 53 years young today, feeling young at heart. And if Deb, if your bones aren't feeling bad in this weather, you're doing just fine. But as we say, it only gets better with time. I saw somebody the other day was agonizing over turning 30. I'm like, 30? Come on, for crying out loud, man. You're just hitting your peak right now, man. 30 is the new 50 these days. Or 50's the new 30, I guess I should say.
Well, I thought I was turning old when I was turning 40. Now that I'm 42, just trying to live every day out. I don't feel near as old at 42 as I thought I was going to feel when I was 30.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it shakes out. I guess life is what you make of it, right? You're almost there to the golden hour there yourself. But I guess it's as young as you feel.
Yeah. Cheyenne checking in out of electricity for a day. My goodness. I know there's a lot of people that have been out for days and hours, and they're rolling blackouts. And I saw on Facebook somebody said, yeah, the rolling blackouts, they forgot about the rolling part because I've been out for, X amount of hours. So hopefully, like Bobby said, hopefully that there is a way. And honestly, if you are in that predicament, I mean, shoot us over revvedupsportsshow@gmail.com. Don't know exactly what we may be able to do, but if it's a matter of, especially folks in different locations, I mean, if it's a matter of us contacting somebody for you because you can't, whether it be phone service or you've got that phone charged up but the phone is dead at this point, I mean, let us know if there's anything we can do to help you right there, because it's a trying time right now, man. And it's I got to tell you, Bobby, I was out there today and I was telling Tracy, it felt so weird to me because being out there, it felt like it wasn't real. I mean, it's like you're walking in the snow. I was walking in the snow and I had the good old snowball rubber boots put back into duty today, and it's like, it doesn't especially feel cold. The snow doesn't feel cold. It just feels fluffy and soft. But, man, it's that ice that's sitting under there, and it is a nice, thick layer of ice down there.
Yeah, there definitely was. I noticed today when I attempted to try to build my snowman that there was a little bit of ice there at the very bottom. But I like you, grabbed the snowball-worthy boots and had the electric stuff there. Had the rubber stuff there for the traction, so to speak, being out there in the cold. But yeah, it was a very wet, very dry snow. The thing that I noticed is I had to wait till this afternoon for the sun to come out before I could go through and actually make my snowman. Because this morning when I went out about 10:30 just to frolic around in the snow, it was so soft and so fluffy. It was like the snow that we saw last time we went up to Colorado. So
and it really was, because like here or at the house, I go out and I walk out and just everything is covered. And I'm trying to find like where the driveway is, because I finally I said, let me take the pups out. Let me get them acclimated to it just a little bit. So I took them on like a half a block walk and back. And like you can't find the sidewalk because everything is just so covered up. And it really is. Yeah, it definitely was a winter wonderland right there. It surely was here at my house. And, of course, I posted some picture. I posted one of the pictures up, and there's a Rodriguez Road sign up on the fence that's nailed out there, and somebody messaged me and asked me if that genuinely came from there over there in Travis County, and it did. It's a genuine original. It's not one that was made secondary, but yeah, it has been a day, and we're going to get a little bit of a break, but temperatures tonight, man, we're supposed to be in the negatives, and then there's more of this stuff coming on Wednesday, so this is a bona fide weather event that we're having in Texas. Crazy.
Yeah, definitely a bona fide event. I'd never seen anything like it. Probably I called my neighbor's originally from just south of Miami. And so he choked about wanting to go back to Florida because it snowed twice here within the span of about 6 weeks. And we were talking a couple of days ago where he talked about it, the snow last time we had it during that right before my birthday. And he was talking, I told him, I said, don't worry, it's going to get cold one more time, because it always gets cold at least one more time, if not twice, before my birthday. But I had no idea when I said it was going to get cold that it was going to end up being ice and snow like it is right now.
You know what is so odd also is, I mean, because it's making news everywhere about how terrible everything is in Texas, and a lot of folks don't understand. They think oh, San Antonio, they think San Antonio's the central location or whatever it may be, but temperatures just there was not anywhere in Texas that was over freezing. We were working last week, Bobby and I, to get Jeff Hammond on our Saturday show. And, of course, Hammond had the truck team, and he was working to get himself back to Charlotte. Didn't know if that race was going to rain out. It worked out. Hammond got himself available, but we couldn't do the show. So that's kind of the way that worked out. I got a message a while ago from Hammond, and he's like, dude, is the weather really that bad? I sent him over a picture. I'm like, yeah, it really is. And he said, that's not very Texas. I said, no, sir, it is not anything like what we're used to. It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. Even the pictures up north, the further north you get, the more it looks. That picture that we posted from Texas Motor Speedway about how covered in snow it was, that they ended up posting a couple of different ways. But yeah, this is one of those where you just realize it's funny how we can handle the heat, but we can't handle the winter. Because you figured that the power grid would be more taxed in the summertime than it would be in the wintertime. They've done rolling brownouts and blackouts before in the heat of the day in the summertime, but man, I don't know. It just seems that this has just been crippling all over the state. I mean, there was a little bit of snow in Brownsville last night, so It's definitely it's been snow everywhere. So if you got snow where you're at, just don't forget to put you down here on the Facebook feed. Say, hey, I'm here, and it snowed X amount of inches, and that way we got a record of it on this show. Yeah.
Let us know what you got. If you got a picture there, feel free to pop it up. And again, we're rolling on the Facebook page and on the .tv tonight. We are taping or attempting to tape audio for the .com. So again, kind of what everything the show kind of runs on a dedicated Wi-Fi signal, and so that signal is not working, which entails into the phone line. And so what we're actually doing tonight, we're on a secondary, not quite as ballsy Wi-Fi system that's running video, and it's piping Bobby in from down south. So hopefully everything stays connected, but we're going to go here as long as we can, and everything seems to be good right now. But ideally, this is where we would go in and start wrapping up your weekend, other than Daytona. Not a whole lot, because we started seeing, you had the Enduro that was going to get wiped out. That got canceled ahead of time, and everything started happening right there. So when it came down to that, the local tracks are being very proactive about saying, don't even attempt to come. And I like that. Because we racers are the ones where it seems like there's a flood, and we're still there's a flood 3 hours before the race, and we're still thinking we're going to get the race in. So got to appreciate all the racetracks and even the thaw that said right away, we're not even going to attempt to do this. It's not going to be safe.
Well, I think that the Southern Thaw actually had the wherewithal to actually end up saying, hey, we're not even going to try to reschedule the event to get everybody ready for it. But I think the part that was the surprising one for them is that, how well that they predicted. The one thing I will say about to change gears for a minute is how accurate some of these forecasts really were for the snowfall.
Yeah.
This has been one of the more accurate snowfall predictions they've had, at least in our area, but I'm assuming all over the state, it seems like they've been pretty spot on with the snow and ice. But for the promoters to realize that, hey, they took a chance, because there's been many times you and I have both been involved in decisions at a racetrack where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
If you call it, it doesn't rain. But if you try to attempt to run it, then everybody's pissed off that the conditions weren't bad and cars get stuck in the mud and all of that. So the fact that the promoters for the Southern Thaw and up there at Heart of Texas decided to make the decision early, I think ended up being a really good thing, because it gave the drivers and teams a chance to stay at home and get their business taken care of, especially during this record-setting cold snap all over the state.
And I do think that it's going to clear, because Cotton Bowl has their test and tune / car show awards, all of that coming up on Saturday, and I think it's going to clear good enough for them. I mean, because this is supposed to make its way out. I mean, it may be the bad thing is, I mean, when all of this finally does melt, I mean, it's going to be quite soggy. But I don't know. Hopefully, all of that works out. I mean, I'm sure they'll have a plan in place, and they're probably putting that together now. But Josh Looper from Indiana, he's from Indiana, and this wouldn't be big there at all. Everything's shutting down. Josh, this. I mean, we could just have the possibility of this without it even being here, and the town would be shut down. I mean, that's the way it rolls here. And I have to say, it seems like, because I was watching this morning here in Austin, in the Austin area, it really did look like, I mean, people were staying off the roads, and it was kind of eerie to see Mopac and I-35, and there was not a soul on those roadways. a little odd to say the least.
I think they finally got the word out to don't get on the highway. I think that was the one thing you saw it everywhere on social media. You saw it on the newscast saying don't go anywhere, don't do anything, stuff like that. So I thought that was the good to see that some people heeded the warning, at least today. Not so much yesterday. You saw a lot of people slipping and sliding, trying to get their last minute stuff in before it really started icing last night. I mean, I'm running thin on food, but I really had myself locked down to kind of get ready to go back to normal today. To go back and run to the store to get some canned goods. But I had no idea that the HEB would be shutting down. They didn't even shut down for the pandemic, and they shut down for the snowstorm. So that should show everybody just the power that this whole thing has.
Yeah, they definitely did. So hopefully everybody has what they need. And yes, Joyce checks in. Yes, Kevin does rock, man. That's those folks over there. They got it happening. They got it happening, and we've talked about that on here before. But when you lock down the HEB, that's when you really know. But I did. I mean, I had to get out just to get a little taste of it, just to see exactly what it was like. And it's just as advertised, and it's an epic event. And I mean, folks, I mean, I know I said that I got out, but it was just flat roads, just right here in a very small, 1.5-mile radius. I mean, don't get out. I mean, there's really no reason, unless you do have that emergency situation. I mean, to do what you got to do right there. But stay warm, be good, and to check on folks. That's the main thing. If you haven't heard from folks that you typically hear from, maybe a little check-in, make sure everything's good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I'll probably be out and about a little bit tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be the good day to try to get your errands and stuff run before this next cold front hits. I need some propane for my barbecue grill. Still don't have my propane. They were all out when I went to go get some. So hopefully there's a gas station or a propane lot right down the street from my dad's place. So hopefully they'll actually have enough propane to be able to take my little 5-gallon propane so I can actually cook outside. May take a little longer in the cold outside, but at least I'll get a chance to get some barbecued food there on the grill.
We did have on the pre-race show yesterday an opportunity to talk a little bit about Speed Weeks, and just another chance right here where I think I think everybody is just still so excited and proud for what we saw Corey Roper do with that Friday night race as he comes home third, and he's leading, going on to the back straightaway, and just a fantastic move right there. And as we said, we will have Corey on at some point, but like we said, with the reliability issues here with the connections and so forth, figured tonight probably wasn't the time to do it. But just still to think about what he accomplished right there. It starts 24th, keeps it. So many of those races, Bobby. What you have to do is to keep the truck clean. And if you go back and look at that, even at the end of the race, Roper's truck, I mean, it looked, and a great livery on that truck, by the way, looked just as good as it did at the beginning. What a great job he did.
He did a great job staying out of trouble. There was a little bit of scrape he had on the wall coming to one to go.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, the truck looked really good. The biggest problem for Corey is he didn't get any stage points, but he kept the truck clean. There's a lot of trucks that got tore up. And he seems to always try to run well at Daytona. There was one time when he was used to running in the top 4, was trying to pass some people and ended up getting arrow tight and spinning out. But, I mean, missing out on some stage points is one thing, but he definitely missed out on a couple of the big ones that they had. And that would be good because that's one less truck he's got to replace. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's half the battle right there. I mean, just look at the race last night. I mean, if you get out of there and you get home and you don't have to, replace the damn front clip and back clip and all of that, you've done your job. New Smyrna, the World Series put a bow on that one. We can kind of go back and forth a little bit, but I think the World Series kind of some highs and lows right there. Obviously, there was the ultimate low there in that situation, but it was kind of a tale of different stories right there, where there were times that I would sit there and watch that, and it was really, really good, and there were other times where you'd get the yellow flags and you're just sitting there, and you get the guys running all over each other. I mean, that group of modifieds just they couldn't find their ass from a hole in the ground. It seemed like at some point. So again, a really big show like that on a big stage with everything happening. But I think all in all, Rusty and the bunch of a pretty good job there at New Smyrna, and even dodging weather. I mean, because they were dodging weather a bunch of that whole entire time that they were down or over there.
Yeah, weather really only affected one night when in terms of it canceled qualifying. But as far as the World Series go, I think you're right in the evaluation of it was kind of up and down on a tale of two World Series races.
Yeah.
The problem was that it just seemed like the modifieds just could not find their footing all week. There was too much stuff in my mind. There was too much stuff torn up, and those guys bring down a lot of stuff. But everybody talks about how great and amazing those tour type modifieds are, and while they look like they put on a great show, I just wonder if a lot of their races, I saw a lot of very Bowman Gray type moves and Bowman Gray type stuff, and a lot of those tour guys all run up north and they don't run Bowman Gray. But some of the guys from Bowman Gray didn't even come down. I guess they realized that they tear up too much stuff when they come down to the World Series down to Florida.
Well, you had the two brothers.
The Myers brothers.
The Myers brothers. I mean, they come down, and there's some really good sound. I should I have it pulled somewhere. I don't know where it is. But, I mean, where he's talking about, because it's one of those situations where he talks about they do their work on their own cars, which it appears they do from watching that docu-series. But, oh, by the way, the Kevin James one starts tonight on Netflix, by the way. That might be kind of funny. Yeah, a little bit. It's going to be kind of zany, but it could be kind of funny. But
Ricky Bobby, the series is what it seems like.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But he was talking about, where you get these guys, they don't turn a wrench, they come rolling up in there, and he was saying you get guys that come rolling in like they're NASCAR stars. They never turn a wrench on those cars. They get out there, they don't give a damn about their own equipment, and they certainly don't care about your own. I think it was Jason that wasn't the one that was talking about this. And again, that's a short track racing problem that we see. And that's, something that we could go on till we're blue in the face talking about. But I think there are times there at the World Series where it comes on that big stage. And like we talked about the death of our man, Rusty Cruz, and the situation that led to it, when you look at the situation and you think of the World Series, we're sitting here talking about the negative stuff. I mean, we're not talking about the guys that broke through and won after, all of these different years. That's the stuff that comes to the forefront. And when you see it happen at these big showcase events like that just kind of sours it a little bit.
Well, I think the ARCA race was the epitome of short track racing where it is now. Coming down to 1 to go after they went to 3 to go. I'm really surprised they didn't call that race early, which is something that I would have done in that position. You're 4 laps away from the 3-4 laps away from the finish. You might as well just call it, when you're that close to it. But they decided to go back to basically a green-white checker, and I guess it was Sammy Smith running in second, right behind one of the Gray boys.
Yeah.
And went up in there and just gave him a shot. And Gray knew it was coming because he brake checked him. That opened up the door for third place. That's what those guys get for messing around. But it seems like that's the epitome of short track racing. If you get to them, you're going to get turned, which is not, like we've had that discussion on this program many times before. That's not how the racing used to be. And so it was one of those to where it was like, try not to win it that way. I've always under the consideration that I'd rather finish second the right way than win the wrong way.
Yeah.
But then again, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to dump the leader. When the leader won, he took off and he was gone. But I tried not to have that mentality. Once I get to him, I'm going to turn him, because I think you lose a lot of respect that way. But the problem is, in today's short track racing world, that's what everybody comes to expect.
And that really was absolutely, you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, Taylor Gray's ahead. Sammy Smith, I mean, his goal was to get to him and try to figure out a way to dump him or move him or whatever the thing was. And you got to give, Max Gutierrez right there. I mean, he's sitting there waiting. And I mean, this is a guy, we talked about it on the show last week. He's the FedEx champion of the Mexico series there. And folks were like, who is this guy? I mean, how do you figure out how to do this? I mean, that's a smart race driver right there. I mean, you talk about, we saw it last night on the biggest, at the World Center of Racing. You see when these guys, there's so many times where you get these tight packs of racing, and I say it. I'll say it on the mic. I'm like, so-and-so's in third, and they're probably sitting in the best spot, because I can tell you sure as hell what is going to happen right here at the front of the pack.
Yeah, it's a lot of times you see it. Different groups, obviously, there's a certain group when you watch it at a racetrack, but that was one of those, you just knew it was coming. You could see both guys setting up for it in terms of having to be ready for it. Gray with the brake check and Smith with the bumper tag. Right there, they got into it. Like you said, Gutierrez was the one that knew it was coming. He probably saw it himself from the driver's seat, but definitely had his spotter on, saying, "Watch these two guys try to wreck each other and be careful and take the win."
Yeah, and I mean that really is. I mean that's what it's come down to these days. I mean we talked about the bump and run versus the crash and run or whatever we were talking about, but it that really is the deal, and it does come down to lack of respect, and that's why. I mean, remember the incident we saw at the Snowball with Harrison Burton and Bickle. And I thought it was odd with Bickle got crossed up with one of the older guys in the ARCA race the other day. As I said, the old guys are getting a little frisky there. But Dave Mater, when you had Bickle and Mater getting tied up at Daytona, I'm like, okay, this should be at a short track. But it's the younger guys, and let's not just pin it on the younger guys. I mean, I think a lot of times maybe it's guys that have the resources to be able to not respect the other guy's equipment, maybe not themselves. When you say that you don't respect your own equipment, that's kind of it's a slippery slope, I think, at times, because you do respect your equipment, because for crying out loud, that your equipment's going to keep you alive and going to get you a win or whatever the case may be. But it really is that's what's missing. That's what's missing. And the whole etiquette of it. I mean, I was listening to a driver the other day where he was talking about, here's how I was raised, where I go into the corner. If I'm in the corner and a guy's got the line on me, he's at my door and he's got the line on me, that's his line. I'm not going to turn on top of him. And that seems to, that little unwritten rule right there, the door rule, that little unwritten rule that has been in racing forever, seems to be where people have forgotten. But again, it's not written, so there you go. And I don't know. I'd really like to see that change, because I hate to see stuff get torn up. I don't care if it's the Cup Series like we saw in those two wrecks yesterday, or especially at short tracks. I just think it's uncalled for.
Well, I think it's uncalled for, but it's just the way that this generation of racing has been done. And I think that is one of those things to where you got to try to find a way to make it all happen in the right sense of the word. But it's just it is a sad state for short track racing. You and I have called enough races where that these two guys are going to come in and they're going to get into it, and it's going to end up being the third place guy, like you said, is in the best spot of everybody. But I don't know how you fix it. It's in a position right now to where it's too far gone to try to fix it with the way that everything's working and running now. So, I don't know, man. Like there's not really a way to fix it other than coming in and retraining this generation that comes past these kids that end up, and it's not necessarily, we always talk about the kids that have it.
Yeah, no,
there's still a lot of people that don't respect the equipment because they got somebody with a big check.
Right.
And it's not just the kids. You see some of the driving that you see even within some of the middle-aged guys. It's just like, damn, what's going on with today's racing world?
Yeah, and that's why even like the win last night, we'll talk about the 500 here in a minute, but the win last night for a guy like Michael McDowell that has had to grind his way up and has had financial, all these different things, and he falls into an opportunity. He's been at that upper echelon and maybe had those opportunities, but for whatever reason it didn't work out. I mean, that's what makes it even more special. And the thing that I always look at a lot of times when I see the stuff happening these days on short tracks, when you get these incidences that happen like this, is where I see something happen and I see the driver that does it. And let's go back kind of to the younger driver reference and newer generation. I see something happen, and maybe it's a second, third, fourth generation driver, and I know whether it be, let's say it's a fourth generation driver, I know the third and second, or know of the third and second, or whatever the case may be, and know that generation before has taught them better. But it's just, I mean, it's a joke. I mean, people say when you put one of these helmets on back here that your mind goes to shit and whatever, and that's true. I mean, the adrenaline gets going and the emotion and just everything happens in there. But you just have to be aware of what's going on. And you I don't know, man, dumping people. I mean, we've all done it. And most of the time we've all done it. The people that you least expect to do it have finally done it because they're tired of it getting done to them.
I've had to do it a couple of times. Most of the time, the one problem that I had used to be in the high five was that the high five was a 4-door car. So when I had the line, a lot of people would be concerned when you race into a class that's got 4 doors. The question is, which door is the one that's supposed to be the line? And they've always said it's the door with the number on it. It's supposed to be the one with the line, but it's in your street stocks and stuff like that, your late models, it's pretty evident when you have the number. Right front. What is it? Right? Is it? It's not wheel to wheel. It's fender to number. Isn't that the way the old written rule used to be?
It's at the doorpost. I mean, it's right there at the doorpost. I mean, if you're going in the corner and somebody's down there on the bottom and they're right at that doorpost, I mean, it's their line. I mean, they're there. That they may push up and get into you. I mean, that's their problem. But when you crank down on top of them, I mean, that's not right. I mean, it's just that's not the way you race. And I got to tell you, Bobby, and we will get to the 500. I saw the world in a whole different fashion when I got in a dwarf car. And it was one of the things when that opportunity was presented to me. I told a couple of people, I said, I'm extremely worried about getting in that car because I'm used to when I want to make a pass, I'll rub on somebody. And with these, you can't do that. I mean, you rub on somebody and you're like going, you're going. And that was one of the things where I wish that earlier in my career, I would have had an opportunity to get in one of those open wheel cars, especially something that fast. Because I can tell you, I mean, I haven't been in a dwarf car in a couple of years, but I can tell you that when I jumped into that series, to see the respect that those guys had, and we had young guys that learned to race with us during that time frame, and it was, it was told to them, you do not. you do not come out of the corner, shoot straight up, and boom, straight down if there's somebody there, because you're gonna fucking kill somebody. It's pretty much what you tell them, and that's when things changed for me. That's when I said, okay, this is how you race, because that stuff right there. With the modifieds. I mean, when you see the modifieds, and these guys are driving all up on each other, I'm like, guys, shit, seriously? I mean, geez. I mean, we're all competitive here, but man, we're talking life and limb. That's rough.
Yeah, that was definitely rough, but it was good to see. That's the one thing that we noticed with the 500 is that with the pumping, with the bumping and the trying to hit the right pass and how everything shook out there, is that the good news is that it's become safe enough up in the Cup Series where people can take a tumble and be okay. But you just the reasoning behind it, sometimes you just question your thought process behind it. It just seems like it's become universally accepted to take the guy out in front of you. And it also seems at the same time like the one thing that nobody was, other than Keselowski being upset at the whole deal, everybody else was like, oh, it's just racing and restrictor plate racing. That's pretty much all they said.
Yeah, part of the deal. And it that is the way of that speedway racing right now. We saw it never more obvious in the ARCA race, like we talked about yesterday. I mean, Gracie Trotter is out there, and she's new to this. She's really, really good, and she qualifies up in the front. She's running up in the front, and I mean, you get into all of the race scenario and all of that, and you've got the spotter there telling you what to do, but eventually, I mean, you're the loose nut behind the wheel, and in that situation right there, Gracie is just such a great young talent, but the bump drafting that they do in speedway racing, she did it, and I mean, she just did it at the wrong time. I mean, she did it at the wrong time, and you see the result right there. And she was killing herself. I mean, great job by the spotter to say, when she said, was there anything I could have done different? I mean, seasoned pro right there to not say, yeah, you probably shouldn't have hit him in the corner. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. But I mean, you live and you learn, and she's going to get better from that. But unfortunately, she learned the hard way.
Yeah, no, she definitely learned the hard way. You could tell there were some rookie issues that she had to work through, and that's the thing coming up was you have these issues. I was surprised with the rookies that did so well in the 500. A lot of them Austin Cindric ran a great race there till the end, until he had the pit stop issue. But you definitely see a lot in the ARCA race, some of the mental mistakes that the rookies make. You see a lot of it in the Xfinity series and the Truck series. But it's just one of those. That's why they call ARCA a developmental series. No disrespect to the people that run ARCA full time and have run ARCA full time forever, but it's turned into a development series. There's a lot of investment there for Toyota with the Venturini program to get these kids the next step up when they kind of get them rocking and rolling. And as we saw with Haley Deegan in Ford Performance, she ran the full season in ARCA, and then now graduated into the Truck series. So she, the ARCA series is a development series. It's the one that gets you into the NASCAR Top 3 series.
And I mean, I like what they do. I mean, with that series, I mean, they put you And I've always thought it was odd, being that it is a development series. I'm like, okay, you start the season and you put them at the most treacherous race of them all. and then you kind of wind them down a little bit, get them on dirt tracks and some of these smaller tracks. But to sit there and watch that, and again, I do applaud with the ARCA series. I did enjoy, seeing the young drivers. And they did well, and you saw the pizza delivery guy. I mean, that's a great story where the guy's going to have a down payment on his house, and I wouldn't have advised him that as a real estate pro and a racer. I would have been like, no, let's work on the house. Let's figure out a different way. The house is going to do you better. But then you had old guys. I mean, there were like 68-year-old guys out there, and I mean that. While that's scary, Bobby, I was truly worried about Derek Cope because back to Cup. Because when I saw him in that, that was the duel, wasn't it? Yeah, the duel race. That dude was like tortoise slow, and I'm like, Derek, you haven't been in a car in a while, man. Do you remember how to get out of the way? This is scary. This is scary.
Yeah, no, he was definitely off the pace. I was surprised that the pace is as bad as the Rick Rear cars were off the pace. Normally, those cars are actually a little bit better when it comes to super speedway racing. But, that lap 15 crash that took out all the good cars. That the thing that surprised me about the 500, of most of the 500, is that everybody was complaining about the single file racing. It's like, dude, did you not watch the first 15 laps when they tore up a bunch of shit?
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, look, they tore up a bunch of stuff, and they sure there was a lot of single file racing, but they also came out of a 5-hour rain delay too. So they were trying to just run and get to the stages and stuff like that. So none of the circumstances behind the 500 worked out like it was supposed to, with the lap 15 crash and then Mother Nature coming in and putting the kibosh on it for 4.5 hours. I was happier that we got to run the Daytona 500 last night than trying to run it today. So, I think it just worked out better in the window for Fox to run it till midnight.
Sure.
On the East Coast. So it's, once the rain hit, the ratings were done anyway. But with that fiery finish, I can only imagine how much NASCAR was regretting Mother Nature messing it up, because that would have been a great finish to showcase NASCAR with the rough and tumble. Because we always know every time they show a highlight reel, it's a crash from Daytona or Talladega. And they don't show a lot of the side-by-side racing that you see at Martinsville and Bristol. They show the crashing and burning from the super speedways.
Yeah, and still, I mean, we can. I mean, we're all short track people around here. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't care who tunes into this. I mean, whether you're here in Texas or in the Gulf Coast or our friends in Canada or California, wherever the hell it is. I mean, we're short track folks, but still, to watch that. And I mean, and again, you applaud Fox for their coverage right there. I mean, to see what these guys do, I mean, it is it's unbelievable to see. I mean, to be so composed. I mean, I know we like to laugh at the new drivers and we say whatever we say about them, but I mean, seriously, yeah, do the spotters drive the car? Maybe they do. Whatever the case is, but to sit there and do that for, a regular time, 3.5 hours, whatever it's going to be. In this case, you get a 5-hour and 42-minute break in between. Man, on that track at those speeds, I mean, man, guys, I mean, seriously, cut him some slack. That takes some big balls to get out there and do that. It's tremendous, man. I
mean, they're still running at 200 miles an hour in that pack. I mean, it takes some skill. Everybody says it's just punch it to the floor and go. It's not as easy as in the video game where you just sit there and you hold the button and it just goes.
Right.
That's one of those things to where a lot of people get, oh, it's so easy. I can do it on iRacing or I can do it on the Xbox. That a lot of people forget that it takes a lot of skill to even just run in those packs. Because there's a couple of times that one save by Denny Hamlin with about 15 to go was one fantastic save, because where he's at, he can't let off, because if he lets off, then he's going to get run over and cause another big one.
Yeah, and that's, same thing on a short track level. I mean, when you get, I think Sean Paul had actually posted something, or somebody posted something the other day on Facebook where, you get out there and you run, you've worked all week and you don't have the night you want, and a fan comes up and tells you that they could have done a better job. I'm like, okay. All right. You drive it next week and let's see how easy it is. But back to the Cup thing. I mean, for these guys to get out there and do that, and it's they're putting their lives, in danger, seriously. I mean, at these races. And we talked about it on here a couple of weeks ago, where we haven't, thank God, we haven't had a fatality since we lost Earnhardt, back in 2001. But still, I mean, to strap into one of these things and get out, and I thought it was a little ironic the other day or yesterday where somebody posted, oh my goodness, Newman again with that wreck. He has to be traumatized. I'm like, man, that wasn't shit. That was nothing.
Yeah,
that was
nothing compared to the one last year.
That was absolutely nothing. Chad Deere checking in, absolutely staying warm. Oh my goodness, man, no power since 5 a.m. Man, that is rough stuff. That is rough stuff right there. I hate to see that, man. That seriously, guys. I mean, you have to. I mean, bundle up as much as you can. I mean, I know that's kind of a stupid thing to say right there, because when you get cold enough, I mean, you run out of layers, and it gets tough. So, and check on people. That's super important.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what you got to see. I have seen more than one racer on social media today saying that the warmest outfit they have is their 3-layer Nomex suit. So I've seen a couple of racers walking around in their racing gear to try to stay warm if they didn't have power. So I've seen that a couple of times today on social media.
Man, that's a good idea. I think I have a couple of those laying around. I may have to throw one of those on. There he is, AA Alan Alexander. I was trying to get him on last week, but I think he had babysitting duty, he said. Mobile, indeed. I will be, as I said here. Hold on. My fine new friends in Mobile, they have outfitted me to be a part-time Crimson Tide. So yes, I will be doing the Mobile thing. Obviously at Houston, planning to do some dates for the folks out at CBS whenever I can, maybe even over at Edna. But looking forward to an exciting season, and keep after AA. And Alan Alexander, I mean, that's a dude. Lots of good stuff on the pavement, and now a dirt track warrior.
So is Halford the one that sent you that hat?
No, I'll tell you where that came from later.
All right, I didn't know if Halford, because he's one of them diehard Roll Tide fans. But it's what's funny about this whole deal. This whole deal with Mobile is taking a life of its own. Everybody was wondering if it worked, but man, the publicity around Mobile, with you had all the news area taking advance notice of it. That was a lot to see, but I don't know, man. It was one of those to where it was. We were texting back and forth about Mobile, texting back and forth about the weather. We thought we were going to end up having to not have a show today because the Daytona 500 was going to be on right now.
Yeah. I thought we'd be finishing because they had said 4:00 Eastern. So, and that would have been starting at lap 16. So, yeah. And hats off to them, seriously, for getting it done. I mean, because you did have people there, and honestly, I mean, it turned out to be a good race. It turned out to be a good race. But let me jump back a little bit there to what you mentioned about Mobile. That really is, it really is good to see that happening. And there's a lot of folks over there that are excited, and that's where you see where the racetrack really does blend into the community. And I've seen something in Mobile that I just, for years, Bobby, we've talked about. I just wish that we would see it here in Texas. Is that we saw a little bit of it in Houston when Gina got that one going again, but the local media there has just been they've gone bonsai into this whole thing with different reports there with Masaida and with Gina and how that's coming back to life. And you've got a racing forum there where they're just so grateful to be at the racetrack. I mean, whether it be going out there to help work on it. I mean, you've got guys, and this is the beauty of it, is where they've just been waiting for that opportunity. Now you got people that are going to work, getting cars ready, and it's good for that community, because that seriously is a racing staple. And for them, like we've said about San Antonio with pavement, it really sucks that they haven't had that track rolling.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a speed plant down there with a half-mile high bank, racetrack that a lot of people still adore. The good news is it wasn't in much disrepair as San Antonio was when they tried to reopen San Antonio. That's for damn sure. But it's going to be nice to see. I've got a couple of dates depending on when they shake out to try to get a couple of times to Mobile myself, just to go down there and support Gina and the whole short track racing series out there. But it's good to see when the community. Sometimes it says you can't preach to the choir, but I think that racing is a little different, especially nowadays. You have to preach to the choir, because the choir goes out as the one that delivers the sermon to the next group of people out there. Because once you try to get the racers involved, those are the ones that are going out there saying, "Hey, let's bring a couple of my fans up here. Here's some friends. Hey, grab some friends. Come to the racetrack. Come see so-and-so race." You see a lot of it in the eco stocks and some of your lower divisions and stuff like that. Those teams those are the ones that bring the most fans to the grandstands. It seems like your late model and modified teams are the ones that bring all of the all of the people to the pits because there's so many people that they want to bring in. But it's just good to see the race. It's good to see the buy-in at Mobile before even the first races there. There's been a lot of buy-in to Mobile, and it's good to see.
Yeah, damn, look at that. You heard it here first. Lauren Alexander is rebuilding San Antonio Speedway. How about that? See, we've always said that it takes a lady. Look at Gina. Look at Marianne. Look at all of these. Owen's a guy. I guess he's just Owen and Stevie are guys, so I guess they're just rare breed. It takes a female there to make it happen, so that's good. We look forward to being back at San Antonio. But Mobile, I think with Mobile, what you're going to see there, and again, what we saw with SAS was, yes, it was great. I mean, we got it back, and there were several of us that were there for the fight, but what happened is it started out on a holy terror, and then it one rain out. I mean, it was one rain out that kind of crushed that whole thing, and that comes back to the other thing that we're talking about, where it's so cool what we're seeing at Texana, because Cord actually owns a place where the one rain out for Chris and Brad and everybody in that bunch, the one rain out sealed it. I mean, you lose your ass once, and you're on a shoestring budget, and there's no going back, and that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, a lot of people don't realize how tight the budget was for San Antonio. There was no margin for error, especially when you think about you still have to pay for everything. That's what people don't realize, that when you have a race rain out, you still had to pay for the lights. You still had to pay for the lease. You still had to pay for the insurance. None of that went away. You're definitely going to have to give rain checks out to your race fans that come through the gate. So yeah, one rain out can definitely affect the budget, the bottom line, more than anything more than what people think.
Yeah, and what made Kyle work, I think, really well there for a while, it was in the second phase of it, was that you did have kind of the dual, it was kind of a triple operation where you had your races. If you lost your races, you still had, whether it be you had the karting that was going in the karting was a bigger deal than I think anybody really understands. I mean, you could roll up into that karting thing on a Monday, Tuesday, middle of the day, and there's all these karts out on the track, and they're having corporate stuff going on there. I mean, you had that at one time. You had the concerts, and then when the bar was there, I mean, you could go in on a Wednesday afternoon at 4:00, and the car bar was full of people, and that's. Just secondary stuff right there. My hair is awful. I hate looking at that up in that thing. But it's hard. It's very, very hard to jokingly, talk about that opening San Antonio. But I think Mobile is going to be really, really good. And that schedule is coming. It was supposed to come Friday. It didn't, simply because of the weather stuff that was going to happen. There were people that needed to be in different places, so they just kind of put that on hold. It's actually going to happen probably once all this shit passes, but we'll have that for you. To the 500. So this race gets underway, and you got Bowman, you got Byron, all these guys really up at the front. And I'll tell you, Bobby, I was so irritated just looking at it as a casual fan, the first part of that race, because I really did think that Eric Almirola, this was going to be his time. I really did think, because he had been so good during the week, and I thought he had put himself in such a good spot, and he's such a good plate racer, or spacer racer, whatever the hell it is. And man, every time, how does he always get hooked? How does he always get hooked and into the fence in turn 3? Every damn time.
Every time coming down the backstretch, he gets the wrong kind of push, and it puts him in the fence. Unfortunately, it goes back. I mean, I think those guys are running second and third when it came through. And they ended up taking each other out. My biggest problem is that my satellite dish was messing up. I couldn't watch the race without it cutting out, and I didn't want to watch it in standard definition, so I started watching it on the Fox Sports app, and it came through, and I was on about a 45-second delay, so somebody spoiled the big race for me by texting me saying, "Oh, damn, look at that big-ass wreck on lap 15. It wasn't you.
Oh, good.
It wasn't you. It was somebody else, but as far as that goes, I mean, it was surprising to see it done so soon, and it did. It totally changed the complexion of that race because it knocked out a lot of the heavy hitters. It completely destroyed my fantasy league team. That's for sure.
It was way too early in the race for that to happen, and again, like we were talking about earlier with the respect thing, and I think Cup is different because it's not so much that it just happened so fast. But I was, Christopher Bell, we had talked about him, and he's now in the 20 car, and I mean he looked really good yesterday. He looked really good, but I think that's just one of those scenarios where you could see it on Almirola's face, where it's like, man, why are we doing this at lap 14 when you start tearing these cars up? And I mean, we see typically, if I'm right, feel free to correct me. I mean, we get to the big one. You may have a big one, lap 80, and then obviously as the race gets in a little further, we start tearing these things up in these multi-car crashes. That just seemed way early for that to happen.
It really was. It definitely seemed that way early, and where it happened. It's one thing to see the caution in the back, like you saw Derek Cope and Bubba Wallace bring out the very first caution on lap 3, ironically.
Yeah.
I did like what they did on lap 3, the respect for Dale Earnhardt that
Absolutely.
they showed. But but as far as that big one popping up, it seemed like, especially from the front, you expect some of those guys kind of jockeying for position in the back that don't normally run up front on the plate tracks. You expect to see some of those guys mess up early, but you never expect to see it from second, third, and fourth that far up.
Yeah, when you have it happen, I mean that man, that far up in the pack, I mean it's going to be disastrous. I mean there's nowhere to go but right into it, and I mean it seems like it's changed so much now. I mean they used to teach you, you drive into the smoke, and by the time you get there, it's going to be gone. And I mean, the thing is, when you're piling up 14 or 15 of them, it ain't going to be gone because maybe the car that you're looking at is going to be gone, but one of the other ones will be. And then you get the delay, and I seriously thought, I'm like, Denny Hamlin is about to stink this up. He's going to win his third in a row and his fourth. And dude, that one there, that's typical Denny Hamlin luck for that to work out the way that it did right there. I mean, he gets a top 5, but obviously that's not what he wanted. But man, Hamlin, he had him covered again. He
did. He had him covered again, and for some reason he's now 5th on the all-time list. He beat Bobby Allison, moving up on the list. Not her. I'm assuming it's probably a Petty and a Cale Yarborough that are probably up there at Pearson and probably lead the most laps. But as far as that goes, he was dominant. Very rarely do you ever hear anybody come through and ask their crew, "Hey, how many laps have I led today?" Because a lot of times, at least especially since they went to the points, you used to hear them laugh and joke about how many laps they led to get the bonus points for leading the most laps. But now with the way the format's there, you don't hear that a lot. I was surprised to hear that on the radio. But how about Boyer in the booth?
Oh man,
did he exceed your expectations, or what was your rating on that?
That guy right there, he just adds a whole different element. I mean, I like when he's talking to the drivers, or when he talked to Denny before the race, where he's talking to Denny, and Denny's sitting in that car, and Denny's not the most exciting guy anyway when it comes to those conversations. He's like, "Boy, you better wake up. You're coming down to take the green flag." I said, that's pretty good. But that's a good balance right there. That's a good balance right there. And we're actually seeing a little bit of not that we didn't think that Jeff Gordon had a personality, but we're actually seeing Jeff Gordon he's somewhat funny, it seems like, with Boyer there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes when they're ribbing each other, right? Like if it's a real rib,
yeah.
Or if it's a rub, or if they're sometimes really just trying to don't like each other. So I think that's part of what makes it happen, to determine whether or not that is a real rub. But I don't know, man. Like as far as he went, he didn't walk on everybody a little too much, but I think that's why they stuck him in every race so far. They stuck him in the duels, they stuck him in the Xfinity Series race, they had him up in the Cup race. So I think that's when they tried to get him as much TV time as they could. So
Beautiful Joyce says Jeff Gordon looks old. Joyce, he looks old because we've been watching him a long time. We've been doing this way too long, man. He was he was a kiddo, man. It definitely is. But Boyer actually looks better than he did before. So I don't know. And then you got old Mike Joy. I mean, it's just so cool to sit there and listen to Mike Joy. I mean, he's just the anchor of the whole thing. I mean, you've got these guys going off in different directions, doing whatever they're doing, and the grounding there, it's like Mike Joy, the father figure, where he just takes it, and it's him and Ken Squire and Bob Jenkins, who we've talked to, these guys that you get them in the booth, and no matter the situation, they can just take it and stick it right back in the ground like you would a sign. It's like, boom, this is where we're at, and that's a good trio there. I think they're going to do pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think that it's gonna be a change. I was never a fan when they dropped Larry McReynolds and went to the 2-man booth.
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to bring in Jamie McMurray, who's turned into a really good analyst, and so I think that's one of those that have come through, and he's been a very good addition to Fox in their role. Definitely this weekend, I saw him on a couple of those Daytona preview shows. I saw a couple in Austin, and there's a couple in San Antonio that was like a syndicated Daytona 500 preview show. But I thought McMurray did a really good job for as well as he had. It showed that hadn't been in a car in a couple of years, but his willingness to be open and talk about talk to the Fox team beforehand, I thought was really good. And that heart rate monitor was a really good touch too.
Oh my goodness! And how did he finish 8th? Because in that race, he T-boned. Who was that? Bowman. He T-boned Alex Bowman. And again, I guess that goes back to how they build these race cars right now. Because had that happened, 10 years ago, he'd have been long gone. But I tell you, it's really cool to see guys like McMurray jump back out there and get out there and show that they still have it. And I mean, that's the heart of the racer right there. And I like where they were talking before the show where he and Shannon Spake had taken the picture, and he's like, "Don't post it yet. Nobody knows." But really good job by him as he puts it in the top 10. I saw earlier, so that's only his second top 10. His only other top 10s when he won. I guess there were times where he's been really good and he winds up getting wrecked.
No, I mean that was definitely one of those that came through, and he did a really good job. I guess it's been more of a wreckers or checkers type of deal for him. I always thought that McMurray was a better plate racer than that, to not have as many top 10 finishes as he had.
Yeah.
And so that was one of those I was just totally shocked to where he ended up trying to come through and be the man that they had up there. So I don't know, man. Like, it was one of those that came through, and he was, I thought for him to do as good as he could with what he had, that would be a good trend for him. So good to see it, man. Good to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about the run to the checkered here in just a second, but your thoughts on 2311? We obviously, one of the hottest topics of the whole Speed Week was going to be Bubba Wallace with Jordan and all of that little trio there, that brand new team. And I have to tell you, man, they were really good early in the week, and he gets out there and that's one of those situations where we've watched him and we can downplay it a little bit, where we say that Bubba Wallace has done okay on the super speedways, in subpar equipment. But to look up yesterday and see him out there in that fray with the Toyotas, I mean, he was truly, again, they're a satellite team from Gibbs, but they acted the part of a fourth team, what would that be, fifth team? Fifth team. They acted the part of a fifth team the whole weekend. To see him out there yesterday, pretty damn impressive start and great video of the fireball with him in the crash.
Yeah, definitely was some good promo video of him in the fire. The biggest problem that I'm going to see is make sure that they don't overexpose Bubba Wallace. I'm not saying he's a bad driver, not saying he's a good driver.
Right.
But he's about to get in that level of the Danica effect, because they're constantly talking about him and he needs to start producing on the racetrack.
Right.
And there was a lot of talk on social media that when did Bubba Wallace become so good that he needed to get all this publicity? Granted, he's in a situation with Michael Jordan Racing with 2311 that he is going to have the spotlight put on him. But I think a lot of that had to do with the MJ stuff, but a lot of that also has to do with he's still a solid restrictor plate racer. He just ended up having an issue with that loose wheel. Would have been interesting to see how he would have shook out, and had he not been involved with that loose wheel in that final caution, he probably would have been closer to Hamlin and tried to come running up to the front.
Yeah, they may have been able to team up there, but yeah, you're right, man. It was there for a while. It was a Bubba Wallace 500, and that's not really the way it should be. I mean, it's not. Again, I know it's a great story. I mean, it to have Air Jordan, to have the GOAT, I mean, to have him involved, yeah, that's really cool. And great interviews and all this stuff before, but I mean, it's time to go. And we said it yesterday, we said it throughout the week. I mean, there are no excuses anymore. And it's not to say that, hey, I hope he does well, and I think that he can. I really do think that he can. But like we were saying yesterday, I think the biggest obstacle he's going to have is he can't beat himself. I mean, because you beat yourself and you're screwed. And we've watched him do it. And he is, man, he had a little bitty flashlight on him before. Now he is like, he's got the biggest light on him. Obviously, we saw it yesterday. Now it gets real. The 500's over. Now it gets real. Now let's see what happens. Now you perform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now's the chance when that spotlight is going to be even brighter in terms of what he's going to have to do. But I think he played the part as well as he could, right, so to speak. But it's going to be how well that team handles. If it is indeed a satellite team like it was with Furniture Row when they get in the equal equipment that they got for Gibbs, that will be a surprise to see how well that Bubba Wallace runs compared to the Gibbs equipment. But I think that spotlight's going to be on Bubba Wallace pretty much for a hot minute until just the fire revolving around Michael Jordan kind of goes down just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We compared his situation. We compared his situation yesterday to Chase Elliott, and I mean, just to watch the people's champion, to watch Chase do what he's done. He rolls into Daytona, and I was totally prepared. And I think that this shows even more the maturity level and the level that Chase Elliott is at right now, because we said it, he did not have an off season. The dude went off and ran everything. I mean, if they'd had a horse race somewhere, he probably would have went and jumped on a thoroughbred and ran. To watch him show up at Daytona, probably should have won the Clash. He was really good in the duel. He sits there yesterday. He was disappointed in his performance, not disappointed to the sense of end of the world like we saw before. He comes home second. I mean, the champ looks poised once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he played the part of the champ. I mean, finished in second in the 500. That came through and just said that it shows how solid that his program really is in terms of how well that program is, and totally shocked because of the fact that that he was one of the only Hendrick cars, but he was quiet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, so I think it was kind of surprised to see. It's kind of just surprised to see how well he was able to run, but yet he was very quiet. It was a very quiet second place finish, and so I think that was the one that ended up putting him in the spotlight that he needed. Obviously, there was the talk of, are they going to end up letting him? Were they going to let Chase Elliott come through and take the win before they ended up doing it? Were they going to wait for Chase Elliott to take the lead before they threw the caution? But obviously, the first question they asked him, he said no. He was beside him when they saw the caution lights come on. So I think it's better for Chase Elliott for Chase Elliott to finish second than it would have been for Chase Elliott to win.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it was a good. I think it was overall it was a good race for the scenario that was left in it. Right, there wasn't a lot of cars left to when you had the 23 cars on the lead lap with 28 cars running on the track. You knew that the pace of the race was going to change, and you knew that it was going to happen. But Chase Elliott, I was kind of surprised by Kyle Larson talking about Hendrick Motorsports in terms of how well he ran. Very, very quiet. I don't know if it's because there was not a lot of talk about Kyle Larson for the reasons of trying to get him back into the race, but I was really surprised about that. But Hendrick Motorsports kind of hit or miss there. I think that they lost a lot when their cars were tore up in that big lap 15 melee in the beginning of the race.
Yeah, and I think yesterday proved. I mean, because I know Daytona is what it is, the 500 is what it is, but we're going to get into this, and it's a Ford series. I mean, the Fords are the ones to beat, and Toyota's good, and Chevrolet. I think they're, like you said there about Hendrick. They got a lot of BBs in the canister right there where they're ready to go. But I mean, you come down to the end right there, and you've got. Seriously, that could have been, as this is all transpiring, I'm thinking that it's going to be 1, 2, 3 for Penske, because Austin Cindric, I mean, and I have had thoughts of Cindric where I'm like, well, Tim Cindric, blah, blah, blah. But, dude, man, that guy got out there and he proved his worth yesterday. I mean, he needs to be in the Wood Brothers car that he's going to wind up in. But you watch him coming down and the Ford's up at the front of the pack, and that's where, it gets – it turns into a crapshoot, and you see what happens right there. It's just a good run. I was waiting for Austin Dillon. I'm like, Austin Dillon to me was kind of going to be the key to all of this, because I'm like, he's the Chevrolet in there. I don't know if he and Harvick, I don't know what's going to happen there, but I was waiting for something to happen there, and he did. He pulled out a line, and you got to hand it to McDowell, and there's never been a question about McDowell's prowess on these super speedways, but for him to get in there and he puts the shot on Keselowski, and he squares the bumpers. I mean, he squares up and he puts the bumper on him, and he made it happen. I mean, he made it happen, and you get those two up at the front of the pack, and you have to think that today at the Penske shop was probably not a very happy day.
Well, see, I'm still in somewhat of the minority here because of the fact that I feel like McDowell took both of them out. And from what I saw on the replays, my interpretation of that final lap was that he ended up taking Keselowski, just pushed Keselowski directly into Logano and ended up taking them both out and got the win out of it. Not as blatant as it was that time that Brian Vickers took out Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. at Talladega to pick up the win at the restrictor plate track. But it just seems like because McDowell's such a nice guy and it's the nature of the restrictor plate racing, you just push and push and push until you get the move. I didn't see quite the block that I thought I was going to see that you normally see moving left to right to try to block a run.
Mhm.
So for me, it still looked like as though McDowell ended up taking out the top two and got the win. But kudos to be able to not lift. I mean, that was one of those. That was one of those. Damn, that was a hell of a wreck kind of moment.
Yeah, and I saw it. McDowell lays the lick, and as it happens, he gets off the back bumper, and then as Brad goes forward, it seemed like Logano came down, and maybe Brad kind of went up a little bit, and that's where they both get turned. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to go back and watch it. And again, Bobby, this is where we can go back talking about turning people. This is where you can go to Chase Elliott and. I mean, Chase Elliott could have turned Michael McDowell if you go back and watch that. But it was one of those finishes where you have a happy ending to the story. I do think that what this is going to do, this is going to raise some conflict there with Brad and with Joey. I mean, because those are a couple of guys where there's been some tension there anyway, and these guys are set. I mean, Brad just re-signed. I mean, he's locked in there, and to have those two leading Penske. You're in a pretty good spot right there if you're the captain, but I just think that this, moving forward, we're going to the road course, which how crazy would it be if Michael McDowell won the road course race? I mean, I don't think he would, but...
I don't think he can.
Can you imagine that?
Not so much that he would, but...
Oh, my goodness. But I think that we've set a pretty nice plate right here where you've got maybe some teammates that aren't happy with each other. You've got some folks that aren't happy with each other from the lap 14 race or from the lap 14 wreck. You've got an underdog that won the race, and if anything, I mean, I'm curious to see, again, Daytona's Daytona, the 500. I'm curious to see who of these guys, like Austin Dillon and good run for the Watermelon Man and Ryan Preece, and these guys that coming out of here, let's see, is there anybody that you think that actually will stick? I mean, is Chastain going to be the one? We didn't get to see Kurt Busch really do anything yesterday. I mean, could Chastain be the guy that this year is kind of the sleeper that sustains what he did yesterday?
I think the sleeper is going to be Austin Dillon. I think that
Think
RCR
so?
has
Yeah.
their stuff on the up and up because their mile-and-a-half program was getting better last year. And so the fact that they had that their super speedway program seemed to be on the up and up, especially since they were running, one man only. Didn't get a chance to see what Tyler Reddick had in that race, but I've been on record thinking that Tyler Reddick is going to be the lead for RCR. But I was definitely impressed with Dillon last week or last night, and so and he ran good in the duels. So I think that now I don't know who to really pick at the road course because it's such a snafu to try to figure out who's going to translate well from the super speedway to the road course. I think it's going to be the same top five you had before. I think it's Chase Elliott's race to lose. I think Ryan Blaney will be running well. I think that you'll see Kurt Busch. You're going to see a lot of the same figures up front at the road course coming up this weekend that you did back in the Clash last week.
Yeah. And by the way, hell of a wreck at the end. I mean, the ride there for Brad and for Kyle Busch and these guys. That was, if you're going to go out in style, and that's what those guys did. But yeah, moving forward, it is on to the road course, and interesting, something different. They stay in Daytona, but good for McDowell. 357 races, had never been able to park it in victory lane. He's a good dude, and good for him, and good for the team. I mean, good for the team. It's that's one of those where you get these folks that invest everything that they have. They put their heart and their soul into the sport. And to see that little guy do good, that's kind of refreshing. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good for everybody when the little guy does good. Obviously, Bob Jenkins in Furniture Row. I bet that happened a lot. A lot of people saying Furniture Row instead of Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah.
But the guys who are Front Row, I wish they could have found a way to interview him. I really want to listen to another interview with Bob Jenkins, the owner of that outfit, because of the fact I remember listening to his interview when they won the first time. That he said all that money was worth it that they all spent because he finally got a win. It was the restrictor plate. I think David Reagan was the one that got it, and Michael McDowell pushed him to a win in the race. So that was cool to see. I can only imagine the feeling of being the car owner for the winner of Daytona.
Mhm.
They are the funny part about it though is that we talked about all these teams replacing these cars and everything else they have to do with the 500. There's only one team that's happy about having to replace a car, and that's the 34 team,
34.
because that car is going to sit there and sit in Daytona, USA for the full 365 days.
The Love's Travel Center Ford. Let's stop at Love's next time I hit that Luling. Hit them both. Hit Love's and hit the Buc-ee's. Good stuff. Congratulations to the man himself, Michael McDowell. I went upstairs last night after the race, and the wife had gone upstairs to watch something on Netflix, and I came up, and she said, who won? I said, guess. She said, Denny. I said, nope. She's like naming all these guys off. I said, you'd never believe it. She said, oh, my God, Bubba won. I said, nope, did not. Michael McDowell.
And you're like,
who?
Yeah.
Well,
who?
The funny thing was, because we had actually, we were watching some of the pre-race stuff, and Michael McDowell popped up, and she goes, that guy's been around forever. I said, yes, he has. But hopefully now when we think of Michael McDowell, we don't have to watch that damn flip anymore. No, although
at Texas Motor Speedway, we probably will.
It's fun to watch. But he's got a better highlight. Good for him. Daytona. All right, enough of that. Enough NASCAR. We are on to, hey, the like Joyce said, stock car tour starts next week. Everything's going to thaw out, and short track racing will commence, and we're about to get down to business. It's about to get real busy around here.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's starting to heat up. Obviously, you have Cotton Bowl with the little test and tune, and the car show coming up this weekend on the 20th. And you got the stock car tour kicks off on the 20th there in Abilene.
Yep.
Or is that they kick off on Saturday or Sunday?
I think it's on a Thursday. Because I know Waco's a Sunday and Cotton Bowl is a Monday, unless I have that wrong. But I think those two dates are right. But I think on the 20th is actually when it all starts at Abilene, and that is going to be that's going to be fun. That's going to be something pretty damn special right there.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually trying to etch out a spot in the calendar to be able to go to Cotton Bowl and watch that race. So be good to see. I'm interested to see what kind of car count that pulls. I'm not so much interested in the car count though as I am about fan count. So the fan count will be very interesting, especially depending on what the weather does. If the weather's nice, a lot of people are going to want to be getting out of that place to come through and try to just get out of the house after this cabin fever, being locked up in the snow and ice for a couple of days.
Yeah, as if it wasn't bad enough where they're telling you not to go places anyway, just for everything else that's going on. You have this that happens, and kind of been a double-edged sword right there. But seriously, folks, I mean, don't take this lightly. I mean, I know we had everything that happened last night. I mean, I know we got snow on the ground, and it's not going to get a whole hell of a lot warmer. So just know this stuff is going to be sitting there. And, I mean, anything that happens to thaw a little bit, I mean, we're going to be, I think we're like 4 degrees in Round Rock tonight. So anything that may thaw out a little bit is just going to refreeze. And then, oh, by the way, Wednesday, yeah, you got more of it coming. So I mean, it's
supposed to be coming again. Yeah.
Don't joke around with this, man. This is some really serious shit.
No, it definitely is. It's not something to joke around with, but hopefully everything gets cleared up by the time the stock car tour comes. It'll be funny how when we talked to John last week, and he talked about how joked about the weather. He'd be laughing at the weather that we got that actually paralyzed us down here, where they'd be laughing. Oh, that's only 6 inches of snow. What would y'all do with a foot?
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what we do with a foot of snow. This is just amazing as it is with 6 inches of snow.
And seriously, like we were saying, I mean, this stuff is fluffy and nice and clear and white. I mean, this is like the stuff you see. I heard him saying on the news today. They were one of the meteorologists. He said, I worked in Colorado, in the Colorado market for a long time. He said that this is seriously like the Colorado stuff. So, interesting. I mean, just everything that we've been through in the last year and a half. I think this one just right in line. I mean, what a story when we go back and we look at 2020 up through. If you remember last year, this was about the time you had the situation with Newman. And Kobe. We'd lost Kobe Bryant the week before, whatever it was. This is kind of when the fit hit the shan. So, what's next? Dare we ask, what's next?
Yeah, I don't want to find out what's next, but hopefully everything starts getting better here in 2021. The one thing you knew about, nobody's caught COVID in the last couple of days, according to the news, because you hadn't heard a lick about COVID. So that could be good.
You can't get it. You can't get it in the snow, my friends. You cannot get it. You're immune. Good stuff. Daytona getting you wrapped up. Hey, somehow, Bobby, we got through this. I don't know. It worked. It worked.
I guess it worked good enough, huh?
How about that? We may be back later in the week because we do have other things that we wanted to talk about on the local front. So, but we did want to do the Monday show. Monday's a good night, so got it all in.
No, it was fun. A lot of fun. We'll try to get as many shows as we can, but we'll look forward to getting back on track and getting everything rocking and rolling to the show just like they're used to. You never know who's coming on. You never know. Both on these shows and the Saturday show.
Absolutely. RevvedUpSportsShow.com, RevvedUpSportsShow.tv, RealRaceTalk.com, RevvedUpRadio.com. For Bobby Down South, I'm Rodney. We're back, y'all. Be smart, be safe, be nice to someone. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. See you next time.